It started with a smile across a crowded room, the kind of moment that makes your heart skip a beat. She was wearing a navy blue dress, and he couldn't stop staring. Their eyes met, just for a second, but something clicked. That's how it began for Maya and Jordana, two people who seemed to have it all. He was the dependable one, the kind of guy every parent hopes their daughter ends up with. She was the dreamer, full of life, laughter, and plans for the future. From the outside, they looked perfect. But sometimes, the perfect picture hides the deepest cracks. What you're about to hear isn't just another breakup story. It's a journey into betrayal, the kind of betrayal that doesn't just break hearts so it shakes everything you thought you believed about love. These are real-life tales of infidelity that will challenge your faith in relationships. Some are shocking, some are subtle, but all of them carry one thing in common: trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. This isn't about villains or heroes. It's about real people, real emotions, and the choices that changed everything. Maya and Jordan had been together for 5 years. They shared an apartment, a dog named Bruno, and countless memories. There were late-night movies, weekend getaways, and whispered dreams of starting a family. But slowly, little things began to shift. Jordan started staying late at work more often. His phone became a secret he guarded like a treasure chest. Maya felt something was off, but she told herself not to overthink. He's just stressed, she'd say. It's just a phase. Until one night, she found a message she wasn't meant to see. The words were simple but cut deep. "Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you." Maya's world paused. Her hands shook. Her heart raced. The name wasn't saved in his contacts. Just a number. But that one message opened a door to questions she wasn't ready to face. Was it a one-time mistake? How long had it been going on? Was their love even real? As Maya wrestled with these questions, Jordan seemed more distant than ever. He smiled less. He barely touched her. The silence between them became louder than words. But what she didn't know was that this wasn't just about one betrayal. There was much more beneath the surface. And soon, Maya would find herself forced to choose between protecting her heart and uncovering a truth that could destroy everything she thought she knew. This is just the beginning of a series of stories so raw, emotional, and sometimes painful that expose the quiet destruction of trust in relationships. Some will make you angry. Others might hit closer to home than you'd expect. But all of them are meant to start a conversation we often avoid. What happens when love is tested beyond repair? Stay tuned, because what Maya discovers next will not only break your heart, it'll make you question how well we ever truly know the people we love. The next few days moved in slow motion. Maya found herself drifting through daily routines, pretending everything was fine while quietly unraveling inside. At work, her mind kept wandering. At home, she watched Jordan closely. Every move, every word, every pause in his stories. The man she once trusted with everything now felt like a stranger sleeping next to her. But still, she said nothing. Confronting him felt like stepping off a cliff without knowing what was waiting at the bottom. Late one night, unable to sleep, Maya opened her laptop and began searching for answers, not in articles or advice forums, but in memories. Old photos, saved messages, receipts, anything that could give her clarity. That's when she noticed something she had missed before. There were gaps in their timeline, business trips that didn't line up, weekends he said he spent with friends but had no pictures, no details. She pulled out a calendar and started marking dates. The pattern slowly began to emerge, and with it, a sinking feeling in her chest. He hadn't just made one mistake. This had been going on for months, maybe longer. Her mind flashed back to a dinner party they'd attended just a few weeks ago. Jordan had left early, claiming he wasn't feeling well. Maya stayed behind, chatting with friends, sipping wine, and brushing off the odd look her friend Leela gave her when Jordan's name came up. Now that look made more sense. Did Leela know something? Had others noticed what Maya had refused to see? The questions kept piling up. Who was the woman on the phone? Was she part of Jordan's daily life? Did she know about Maya? The more Maya thought about it, the more paranoid she became. Every ding of Jordan's phone made her heart race. Every time he stepped out to take a call, she couldn't breathe. The man who used to make her feel safe now made her feel like she was living in someone else's life. One evening, while Jordan was in the shower again, Maya picked up his phone. It was locked, of course. But this time, instead of putting it back down, she walked to the kitchen, sat at the table, and just stared at it. It was like holding the last piece of a puzzle she was afraid to complete. She didn't need to see the messages to know something was wrong. The truth was already there, humming in the silence between them. And as she sat there, in the quiet hum of their apartment, she realized this wasn't just about one betrayal. It was about everything they had built, her broken bar and everything she was now afraid to lose. The next morning, Maya met Leela for coffee. She hadn't planned to bring anything up, but as they sat by the window watching the rain slide down the glass, something inside her cracked. "Do you think people can cheat and still love someone?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Leela's eyes flicked up from her cup. There was a pause, just a second too long, and then she asked quietly, "Is this about Jordan?" That was all it took. Maya didn't need confirmation. The way Leela said his name, so carefully, told her enough. Leela hesitated but finally spoke. "I didn't want to say anything, Maya. I wasn't even sure. But a few months ago, I saw him at a restaurant downtown. He wasn't alone." She looked away. "They were close." "I didn't want to believe it either." Maya felt like the floor had dropped beneath her. So it wasn't just in her head. The signs were real. The changes in his behavior, the distance, the list, all that was pointing in the same direction. Back home, Maya couldn't shake the image. She tried to picture who the other woman was. Younger? Older? Was she someone they both knew? That thought chilled her. What if the betrayal wasn't just emotional, but personal, woven into the life they shared with friends, routines, even holidays? Meanwhile, Jordan carried on as if nothing was wrong. He kissed her goodnight. He asked about her day. But it all felt forced, like a script he was struggling to keep up with. And then came the new twist. Maya started getting anonymous messages. They were short, vague. "You deserve the truth. He's not who you think." At first she thought it was a prank, but the timing was too perfect. Someone out there knew what was happening, and they wanted her to know, too. The messages kept coming at random times, always from different numbers, always unsigned. Maya tried to ignore them at first, but each one pulled her deeper into a web of suspicion. "Check his calendar. Ask him where he was last Friday." "You're not crazy." The words burrowed into her thoughts until she couldn't sleep. Every sound at night startled her. She began double-checking everything: his receipts, his pockets, his bags. It made her feel sick, but she couldn't stop. She needed answers, and clearly someone wanted her to find them. Then came the breaking point. One of the messages included a photo, blurry, taken from a distance, but unmistakable. Jordan was sitting at a patio table with a woman, leaning in close, his hand lightly brushing hers. Maya's stomach dropped. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was evidence. But it wasn't the image that broke her. It was the background. She recognized the cafe. It was the one where Jordan had taken her on their first date. The betrayal hit her in waves. He hadn't just lied, he had recycled their memories, given them to someone else like they meant nothing. Maya felt anger bubbling beneath her shock. But even as rage rose, a part of her still ached with confusion. Who was this woman? Why had someone been feeding her these clues? And why now? That night, she confronted Jordana, half hoping for a confession, half praying for some twisted explanation. But instead of an answer, he panicked. His face went pale, and for the first time in weeks, he was speechless. That silence said everything. Maya barely spoke. She just handed him the photo and walked away. As she stood outside their apartment, heart racing, phone buzzing with one more message: "It's time you knew everything." Maya realized the truth wasn't done unraveling yet. Maya stood frozen in the hallway, staring at her phone. Her heart was pounding so loud she could barely hear the soft ding of the latest message. "It's time you knew everything." She didn't know if it was fear or fury that drove her next move, but she turned back toward the apartment, only to find the door already locked behind her. Jordan had shut it. That was his answer. Not words, not truth, just silence and a lock. She stood there, stunned, staring at the doorknob like it might turn back on its own. The next morning, Jordan was gone. His side of the closet had been emptied. No note, no call, just absence. Maya felt a strange mix of relief and betrayal. But what she didn't expect was what came next. That same day, An envelope arrived at her door. No return address. Inside was a small USB drive and a handwritten note. "You've only seen one side. Plug this in, but do it alone." Against her better judgment, Maya locked the door and plugged the drive into her laptop. What loaded was a series of audio recordings of conversations between Jordan and someone else. A woman. Not the one from the cafe photo. This voice was different. Older. Calm. She listened, barely breathing. They weren't romantic conversations. They were strategic. Careful. Like two people planning something. The word cover came up more than once. So did protection, account access, and most haunting of all, Maya can't know. Suddenly, the infidelity wasn't the biggest betrayal. This wasn't just about another woman. It was about something deeper. Money, secrets, identity. She had no idea what she was caught in, but it was bigger than a broken heart. This wasn't just a relationship unraveling. This was her entire reality being rewritten. Questions flooded her mind. Had she been part of something without knowing? Had Jordan used her for more than love? The calls, the sudden trips, the vague work meetings. Was it all a front? And who was behind the recordings? Who was watching her this closely? Maya sat there, hands trembling, trying to process what she had just heard. Jordan hadn't just walked away from their relationship. He had disappeared into something she didn't understand, as something dangerous, maybe even criminal. And now, whoever had been sending those messages wanted her involved. Maybe she was already in deeper than she knew. The next message came that night. "You're not safe, Maya. Trust no one." Maya didn't sleep that night. The warning echoed in her mind. "You're not safe. Trust no one." Every shadow in the apartment felt alive. Every sound made her jump. The voice recordings had cracked something open, and now everything felt like a setup. She kept thinking back on moments she had brushed off, bank statements that didn't add up, Jordan rushing to intercept the mail, the work trips that always ended with vague stories. There was no denying it now. She hadn't just lost love. She'd been living inside a lie. The next day, Maya made a decision. She called a private investigator, someone her friend's cousin had used in a custody case. She didn't give too many details, just Jordan's full name, photos, and a list of suspicious dates. By the end of the week, she had a report in her hands. And it shattered everything. Jordan wasn't who he said he was. His real last name was different. The job he claimed to have didn't exist. His LinkedIn, the company badges, the business card, so it was all fake. He had been involved in a small-scale financial scam 3 years ago under a different alias. The woman in the photo, not a lover, an accomplice. And the older woman from the recordings, a legal advisor or someone trying to help him disappear without alerting authorities. Maya's name was tied to a joint account they had opened just in case, where Jordan had quietly funneled over $40,000. She was more than a girlfriend. She was cover. As the pieces fell into place, Maya was overwhelmed with shock, anger, and something worse, humiliation. All that time she had believed she was losing him to someone else. But in truth, she had never had the real him to begin with. Just a version carefully crafted for convenience. She took everything to the police, handed over the USB, the messages, the bank files. They opened a case immediately, but warned her, if he was smart enough to create a new identity once, he could do it again. Jordan had vanished. No trail, no signal. Maya returned home, hoping it was over. But that night, one last message came through. No number, just a single line on her screen: "You were never the target, Maya." But you saw too much. Her blood ran cold. She stared at the screen, then slowly closed the laptop. The danger hadn't passed. It had only changed shape. Maya stared at the final message, her heart pounding but strangely calm. The fear was still there, but something had shifted inside her. She had spent so much time feeling powerless or confused, betrayed, angrier. But now she saw it clearly. This wasn't just about love or cheating or even lies. This was about control. And she wasn't going to let fear take over anymore. The next morning, she met with the detective on her case. Together, they worked through every detail of tracking the digital trail, securing her financial records, freezing all joint accounts. The police believed the message was meant to scare her into silence. But Maya refused to disappear into the background like Jordan had. She gave them everything: her notes, the phone records, even the smallest clues she had once brushed off. The case moved forward, and for the first time, Maya felt like she was doing something that mattered, not just for her, but maybe for anyone else who had been used the way she had. Weeks passed. No more messages. No sightings. It was like Jordan had dissolved into thin air. But Maya had already started rebuilding. She moved out of the apartment, closed old accounts, and began therapy to process the damage not just from the betrayal, but from losing herself in someone else's story. She started journaling, sharing bits of her journey anonymously online. The response was overwhelming. People from all over wrote back with their own stories of infidelity, deception, and survival. She realized she wasn't alone, and that, somehow, gave her strength. There was one final discovery that brought Maya closure. A woman from another city reached out to her through one of the forums. She had been with a man named Daniel, who looked exactly like Jordan. Same charm, same smile, same story. The timeline fit. Maya sent her the details of the investigation, and together, they gave the authorities what they needed to reopen the case. On a larger scale, Maya would probably never see him again, but maybe, just maybe, justice would catch up to him. In the end, Maya didn't just survive a broken relationship. She uncovered a truth that could have ruined her, and instead, she used it to take her power back. Love, trust, betrayal, these are fragile things. But self-worth, that's something no one can take from you. And for Maya, that was the real story all along. Sometimes the worst kind of heartbreak isn't when someone leaves you, it's when you realize they were never really that to begin with. But healing starts the moment you choose yourself. And that's exactly what Maya did.